Welcome aboard. My name is Sharia, and you're listening to a brand new episode of the Aviation Files, the best podcast for all aviation enthusiasts. Today, we have a special guest on the show. I will be speaking with Nick Dunbar, who is coming on the show today to tell us about lithium battery fires aboard aircraft and his company's new solution to containing them. Nick and his company both feel the current lithium fire containment devices aboard aircraft are unsafe, and the FAA has agreed with them. So, they created their own device, which is faster, safer, and more reliable than the current leading devices. So without further ado, let's begin. Hey Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Nick Dunbar. I am the VP of Sales for Lithium Containment Solutions, specifically the Lithium FireGuard containment device. Yeah, and we are based out of Teterboro, New Jersey. We are a sister company to a private charter business, Aircraft Services Group, and our first safety product was EVAS, which was the cockpit smoke safety device, and now we have moved into lithium-ion containment as well as safe charging and other things like that. But I think today we're going to be focusing on Lithium FireGuard, which is a lithium-ion battery fire containment device. So it's a reactive device once the PED, portable electronic device, has gone into thermal runaway. That's when our device is used.
I see. All right. So first of all, what inspired you to start this business? And
So my in-laws have been in the private charter sector for decades. They have always sort of been on their eye for different products for their own fleet. And like I said, the EVAS was the smoke in the cockpit device that we originally started with. And then the Lithium FireGuard, which is what we're talking about today, we acquired it about 3 years ago, and it was built by some engineers, super intelligent guys, and they didn't quite have the sales experience, and there was also a couple little tweaks that we ended up needing to make to get it to a place where we felt comfortable, and that's kind of the story.
all right, well, that's cool. Could you describe what the issue is with lithium fires and why your product is essential for airlines?
Yeah, so it's a funny. I did a podcast a month ago, and he kept saying "new fear unlocked," and that really resonated with me because it's one of those things where you either know about it or you don't, and you talk to people about lithium fires, even flight attendants and people in the business, and they're like, "Oh, that never happens. That's not a big deal." And then you talk to other people whose eyes grow immensely, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's so freaky. I was on a internet rabbit hole, and I was watching these batteries explode." And so it's really diverse, the awareness of the product, and just lithium fires in general. And lithium batteries are everywhere. Cell phone, our computers, iPads, our portable construction materials, leaf blowers, all sorts of things like that, e-vape pens, and these are the reason why you're not supposed to check these items, which I don't think a lot of people have put that together, but that's the reason why they don't want these in the cargo, so that they do go into thermal runaway, that they're on board and they can be dealt with. The thing with lithium fires is they vary immensely. There's really no common occurrence. It always has a different sort of reaction. And so batteries are basically made of cells. And when these cells are faulty or overworked or damaged, they can go into what's called thermal runaway. And once thermal runaway happens, the cells start heating up. They can catch on fire, and then all the other cells can continue to catch on fire, and they call it propagation. And so they say that the cells can continue to propagate for up to 6 hours. And that's what's so scary about these devices. or excuse me, about some of the containment bags because, you know, they're encouraging people to just put these devices into the bags, but they can continue to propagate for up to 6 hours. I mean, I don't know if you saw in the news, but there's a apartment building on fire right now, and they're on their 7th day, I think, of fighting this lithium fire, and they're basically just keeping it at bay. So all of our devices, all of these products are made to repel water, right? So if you drop your phone in the sink, it isn't immediately toast. So these products are made to not absorb water. So when they do catch on fire, it's tougher to extinguish them.
Yeah. It's actually what you said before about people freaking out. I actually didn't know this was a major issue despite having flown so much myself. And so when you reached out to me, I did a little bit of research, and there's just like, it's kind of freaky actually, but I'm great that there's someone out there doing something about it. Cause you sent me a video about the current bags that airlines use, and it was kind of scary to see that it didn't really work very well when the cells kept propagating. So
yeah, and there's just so much misinformation out there because it's sort of an evolving process. So the FAA has been testing all these different containment devices, as well as, you know, we have this UL 5800 certification, which we could get into. But all these tests, they're having different responses every time they get these batteries into thermal runaway. So what they're doing is, you know, they're heating up these batteries and then watching the batteries go into thermal runaway, and then they're trying these different devices, and they're shocked because there's not one response that seems to be consistent. It's always different, and that's what's so difficult about containing these fires is that it's really that they're having different reactions. And we even had one where the battery exploded and the battery shot. And we have a protective screen on ours, which makes us different from everybody else's. But we had a ballistic expert actually, you know, test how quickly the velocity of the explosion was, and they said it was at 300 meters per second. Just for reference, wow. A 9mm gun shoots at 360 meters per second. So basically, you have this battery that is exploding with a velocity comparable to a 9mm gun.
Wow, that is crazy to think that could happen on our airplanes.
On an airplane, right? I mean,
yeah, I know. I mean, what the previous guy said about a new fear unlocked, like that's definitely something that will come to mind when I'm flying next.
It's so funny. I'm out there scaring people. I don't mean to, but
but knowing that you're out there changing the state of the current airline industry makes it feel a little safer for me. So
I appreciate that. We're really doing our best, and you know, we have a lot of support from pilots and flight attendants, and you know, we're you know, the real issue is that when these started happening, it was just sort of a money grab for a lot of these containment device companies, and so they just developed something, and you know, I think intentions were definitely pure, but there was no real test, there was no real standard, there wasn't a lot of information on, you know, the diversity of reactions, and so, you know, a lot of these companies just hit the ground running. And I sent you over some information, but you know, some of these companies were claiming that the FAA approved them, and then the FAA came back out and said, you know, we did not endorse any of these. They don't endorse products; they only endorse technologies, and so, you know, there was a lot of misinformation out there. There's a news broadcaster, I think Stephen Collins from CBS, and about a year ago he did some interviewing with procurers for different commercial aircraft, and they were saying, yeah, it was sold to us as you know, FAA endorsed. And you know, since they've come out with something called the Advisory Circle 12080B, and you know, nobody wants to touch this. Nobody wants to say this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, because it's a tough thing to nail down. And so they came up with sort of guidelines in this advisory circular, and then the guidelines really pretty much sound like they were written for our product. And they say that the devices need to be totally extinguished and cooled before going into the bags. And so, the visual of the flight attendant sitting there with the smoking laptop and trying to extinguish it and pour water to cool it down onto a device that's made to not absorb water, and we know that the extinguishers don't really work with them either. Mm-hmm. And then the potential that they could go back into thermal runaway to propagate for the next 6 hours. It's kind of bonkers.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that being said, how often do we see a problem like this in the airline industry?
I don't have it right in front of me. But if you go to the FAA's website, they are tracking them. And I think there's been like 500 instances in the last 8 years. I think there's been 18 so far this year that have been recorded. We were recently in kind of a closed door meeting, and one of the pilots was saying that actually once a week they're putting these devices into their containment bags. The devices aren't actually going into the thermal runaway, but they're starting to heat up. They're showing signs. And so these passengers are saying, hey, I'm worried this is going to go into thermal runaway. Will you go do what you do with it? And they'll actually put them into the bag or whatever containment device they have. And then at the end of the flight, give it back. So even though the numbers don't show it happening a ton, first off, that's only what's reported. And from what I've heard, it's happening a lot. People are using these containment devices more often than we hear about as more sort of preventative measures. And that's something that really blew my mind, because I had no idea, because we're here trying to gather data as anybody is and try to get a real picture of what a threat these things are and how often this is happening, because it's a good way to sell the necessity of our product, and it's happening a lot more than we think.
So since it's happening on board, how would a passenger or flight attendant know if a lithium fire is occurring on board? What are the signs? I'm assuming smoke is one of them.
Yeah, smoke is one of them. Just the device overheating. Smoke is definitely the main one that they see, and then they see it's starting to smoke, and that's when they jump into whatever protocol that they have. And what's funny about that too is some of these protocols that the online, a lot of these containment bags are pretty vague about how to operate them, and I'll do some diligence and I'll dig into some YouTube and some articles, and then I'll find, okay, they say to do it this way, and then I'll talk to a pilot or a flight attendant who has that device on board, and they're like, this is how we've been told that we're supposed to execute it, and it's totally different from how my understanding of how the containment device is supposed to be used. And so that's another thing that's really scary, is just this sort of assimilation of or consistency of, or lack thereof, of these products. So people actually know what to do. I mean, there's no training. It's really a mess.
Yeah. So what should a flight attendant do if they see lithium fire on board? What would be the best protocol that you could imagine for,
Well, so this is what really differentiates our product. So all the different containment devices have their own protocol. I mean, there's one where you throw a pillow on it. The pillow's supposed to sort of melt into the product. And then, you're contrary to the FAA guidelines, you're moving something that's still hot. You're supposed to then get it into the containment bag. There's one where it's you're supposed to fill up water into the bag, and that has a reaction with this gel that's in there, and then you put the device into the bag that's got the new solution that's been made. But again, that's goes against what what the FAA has suggested, where they're saying it needs to be extinguished and cooled. So that's what's different about our product. So our product, and I'm sure you'll have links and things like that where people can take a look at how it's actually executed. But ours is sort of like a briefcase, and then the briefcase opens up, and then you can put that over the product while it's burning, even before it's cooled or extinguished, and then you close it, and then it's contained, and then there's a little nozzle where you add water, and you fill up. It's like 2 liters till the box is filled, and then the PED is completely submerged in water and contained. And then we also have 2 charcoal filters, because the off gases are extremely toxic. All that smoke, they're like a precursor of mustard gas. And
wow.
And so, then we have, because you have to let air out of it, otherwise it's basically a bomb, right? Mm-hmm. And then so every protocol is different. I mean, they have, some people are like, you put it in the lavatory, and then but you're not. Really? But then you have a vice that could potentially explode in a lavatory, and if the lavatory is out of order, the plane's not supposed to be operating. And then another one suggests that you drop it into a trash can. You take all the trash out, you put the device in the bag into a trash can, and then you pour whatever liquid over you can, because fully submerging it is the best way to sort of manage it propagating again.
So there really isn't like a consistent protocol across all airlines. It's sort of just like, do whatever.
It's what device you have, and what they know about the device, and how to do it. And that's the thing. I mean, we truly believe that there needs to be a standard, and so.
Yeah, no, me too. I completely agree. There should be a standard there.
And when everybody was out building these devices, we already had our device, and it was a great product. And we said, we want to. We're not ready to sell this yet, because there hasn't been some significant, sufficient enough testing, and we didn't have the certification. And then when the UL 5800 came out, we went out to get it. It cost a lot of money to get that certified. We had to tweak a couple things to get their blessing on it, and we're the only containment device in the world that has that certification. The other containment devices won't even try, because they know they won't pass it. Mm-hmm. And I believe there is one now that's close to having it, but it's not for onboard. It's more of like a something you have in an office building type thing, which ours could absolutely be applicable to that as well. But we're hitting the ground running on the aviation side, because we're in the aviation business. Yeah. We created this to put on all of our planes, are fleeted with it. All of our fleet has it on there, and then the FAA, when they put out sort of the advisory circular, and again they met with Congress a couple weeks ago, and they continue to say the only thing guideline that we really support and endorse is the UL 5800.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah, no, it's crazy to think that there could be a device that just goes in flames, releases toxic gas, and can potentially shoot basically bullets. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you got it. And then it can burn for 6 hours, right?
It can burn for 6 hours and potentially make a laboratory go out of use. So
I mean, it's totally bonkers, and that's I mean, every single news article I see with a lithium battery fire, I reach out to, and it's so weird. I mean, we're definitely getting traction. We just UPS's cargo fleet just came out, and they have furnished their whole fleet with our containment device. Mm-hmm. We sell to the DoD, we sell to military, we sell to a lot of private charter, but the commercial aircraft is sort of the tough nut to crack, and right. They're obviously limited by money and things like that. But risk over cost is something that we hear a lot, and until people are honestly reporting this, and we have a really clear idea of how often this is happening, it's going to be tough to sell these guys on it, because our box is not cheap, because it's very, very expensive to make.
Yeah. So could you give us some examples of flights where issues with this sort of thing could have been avoided with your product? Do you have any specific instances?
Yeah, I mean, we're not there, and they're always, it's very vague of what happens, but obviously there was a United flight that you just saw, I'm sure, that was supposed to go to Ireland, and they turned around because a device wasn't even going into thermal runaway. It was just stuck behind the seat, and nobody could grab it. Did you see that?
I did not, but...
It was like 3 or 4 days ago. It was last week, end of last week. I think it was Friday. And because they were so nervous that they couldn't, it was somebody in business class couldn't reach his I believe it was his laptop. They were so worried that if he backed his seat up, he was going to smash it, and that they didn't have access to it. And they probably didn't feel comfortable with the containment device that they had on board. They turned the plane around, and I think it was like a 27-hour delay for those people on that flight.
Wow.
And then Breeze Airways had one where they had smoke in on board, and they turned around and diverted their plane. I don't know exactly where they were going. I think they ended up landing in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is when they have to divert those, I mean, not funny, but the reality is when they have to divert those flights, those are hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that they're out. And it's like, if they're a little more proactive about it and have our devices on board, we're going to save them that money, and it's going to come out in the wash.
Yeah. No, of course. You mentioned a UL 5800 certification. Could you just shed some more light about what that is and what that means?
Yeah, so it's the Underwriters Laboratory Board. It's a group of people, and a few of them, people from pilots to safety advocates, to engineers, and then also some of the containment bag owners as well were on this UL board. And it was just a rigorous testing process, and where and again, there's so many different reactions. So they wanted to, I wasn't at this. It was kind of right before I joined the company, but it went through testing, and then they would make sure that no smoke was coming out, and what they do is they connect a heat source to a battery pack is what they use mostly, because those cheap import battery charger packs are prime candidates for thermal runaway, and so they would connect them to a heat source. They heat up, they go into thermal runaway, and then they would use the containment device, and then they'd go back and they would say, okay, the filters worked, tested the gas, and then they would test the heat on the whole box to make sure that the box didn't heat up, and things like that. And it was very, very expensive and rigorous process, and had to go back and forth and tweak a couple things, but in the end we got the certification, which is now we've really hit the ground running with that. Mm-hmm. And some people understand the how important and special that is, and unique, and some people they don't get it, and it's okay. It's again just sort of lack of awareness, but that's what made us really different, is that we did not want to start selling our product till we were sure that it was going to be safe, so that we could stand behind it. So when these flights are spending a lot of money, we can stand behind our product, and we absolutely do.
Right. No, I'm sure being VP of sales, you must know that that's probably a major way to market your product, and I'm sure it brings a little bit of a sense of safety into passengers' minds, knowing that.
Yeah, and as well as me too. I mean, I'm utilizing my relationships in the different industries, and people are going to bat for me because they know me, and we have a product that we can all get behind. I mean, like I said, they're we're not just a company that saw a void in a market. Like, we are our sister company is a private charter group, and we have 20 aircrafts and clients, that pilots and in-flight, and our clients' assets we're there to protect. And the potential that it's going to happen on these private planes are smaller, because there's not thousands of PEDs like there are on a standard commercial flight. I mean, they say the average person has three to five lithium batteries per person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. So you mentioned that you're one of the UL 5800 is one of the main differences between your product and other products. But could you highlight like a couple other ones that really set apart your product and make it much safer compared to other containment devices?
Yeah. So a big piece is protecting the user, right? So I told you about, obviously, the batteries exploding and sending shrapnel everywhere. So we have a protective shield that once you open it up, you get the device on the floor in the aisle, and then you open our thing up and you can put the device right over it, so the user's protected while engaging in firefighting. The other piece that really stands out to me is the intuitiveness of it. I mean, there's two clasps. You open them up, the gloves come out. You put the gloves on, then you put the box over the device, close the device, clasp it, and then it's really simple. I mean, it's really, really, really intuitive to use, and that it was designed that way. That was by design. And then the other piece is, we're the only device that you can really use right away, right? So these other, the FAA said that the bags, that they need to be, the devices need to be extinguished and cooled, right? So they're going to try to extinguish them and cool them before putting them into the bags. And ours, you can literally, if it's on fire, if it's smoking, whatever it is, you can go instantly and use our device, capture it, and then it's in there, and then you move it to the back of, and then you fill it up with water, and then you can move it to the back of the plane. It's totally contained. You can put it wherever, and then once we're landed and things are safe, you just take it off the plane and then dispose of it.
Cool. So yeah, that definitely makes me feel a lot more safer about your products, and I really hope airlines start to use this more. I hope it becomes a standard, as you said, in the aviation industry. With that being said, our time is almost over. So if there's anything else you'd like to say to the audience, maybe shed any more light on your product, feel free to say that now.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate people following us. We have LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I mean, it's kind of the necessary evil out there, but we're building awareness about it, and talk to the flight attendants and people in the business when you're flying, see what they have on board and sort of see what they know. I think it's important that people show that they're educated and they know that this is a serious risk, and if people have contacts and newscasters and reporters and things like that they know are interested in covering these things, always reach out. And I want people to know we're a small family business who created a product to protect our clients and our assets and their assets and things like that. So this is, this isn't some big conglomerate that sees a void in the market. Like, we truly developed something that we stand behind, so that we can, get it on our planes and our fleet. And we're just looking to spread awareness and try to keep people safe.
Yeah, no, I will definitely spread the word about your product. I think it should be a must on every aircraft.
And the one other thing too, if you go to our website, lithcon.us, we do have other things there that are safe charging for e-bikes. We are definitely on the forefront of a lot of different lithium ion fire products. And San Francisco just had a mandate for e-bikes, for all e-bike shops, that they need to have a designated area for charging that has a sprinkler system put into it. They just approved our Racklin box, which we're the exclusive North American distributor of. So you can see we have a few different products. We work in maritime, on yachts. There's lots of cool stuff on there. So go check out some of the videos. There's some crazy videos of batteries going off, and there's a lot of good content there. So go check it out.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for telling about this issue. I look forward to talking to you again sometime in the future.
Awesome. It was really great meeting you, and appreciate your time so much.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. There you have it. A big thank you to Nick and Lithium Containment Solutions for taking the time to speak about this issue and their product. And thank you for listening. Please make sure to support the Aviation Files however you can. And don't forget to check out my Insta @the Aviation Files for more fun and exciting aviation news. Until next time.